Good afternoon, everybody. Happy lunchtime to Central Time, just after lunch here in the Eastern U.S. I'm weather and radar meteorologist Becca Parker. Today we're going to be going over the severe weather threat across the Southern Plains, as well as the flooding threat here in the Southern Plains, as well as around the Ozarks area. I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes here just to allow everybody to get into the live. If you are being impacted by this event, we're going to go over all the details you need to know for today's event, because storms are going to start erupting here in a very short amount of time after lunch. So you'll want to get to know all the information that you can. If you know somebody that's being impacted, please share the information with them so that they're able to see exactly what's going on. Just send them the link to this live and they'll get all the information that they need. Alrighty. And if you are watching, be sure to drop any questions you have into the chat. I'll be checking them throughout the live. If you have a question, it's likely somebody else has the exact same question. So, be sure to ask it and we can get everybody the information that they need. Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and start taking a look at what's going on here across the Southern Plains. So you can see behind me is the weather radar screen showing exactly what's going on, at least for the current moment. We've got some scattered cloud cover, some scattered rainfall and scattered thunderstorms here going on across the Southern Plains. Let's go ahead and press play to take a look at what's been happening here. So you can see all this on the weather radar. You're able to see the temperatures, the sky cover, the different satellite images of the clouds, as well as any rainfall that's happening as well, including rainfall rates. And then the yellow dots here and the orange dots are lightning. So you can already see we've got some storms happening across the Southern Plains here and some really heavy rainfall getting into just west of the Mississippi here into the Ozarks and mid-Mississippi Valley. So it's a big day as far as storms. We've got an enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5 for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center. So we're going to be seeing hail, tornadoes, and damaging winds from these storms, in addition to flooding rains as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because there's one area we want to zone in on for the flooding rain threat that continues. So yeah, we have those 3 hazards that we're going to be looking out for today. The biggest ones are the damaging winds and hail. So like I said, we do have an enhanced risk. And something interesting to see, I'm sure, people across here, the Southern Plains, this morning and now getting into the afternoon have been feeling the humidity rise. Let's go ahead and show what the temperatures are across the Southern Plains right now on the temperature radar. Probably been feeling the juicy air coming in. That's perfect to feed the storm system. That's what it does live off of. So you can see here temperatures rising throughout the afternoon into the 80s and 90s. Let's go ahead and pause this to see current temperatures. Perfect. Alrighty, so you see here on the temperature radar on the Southern Plains, it's quite toasty, but you can also see where we're getting into some cooler air happening here across the western portions into the high plains here. That's kind of a preview of what we're going to be taking a look at from this situation as cooler weather does move in after the storms move out. So, like I said, you're probably feeling that humidity all the way down here into southern Texas as per usual, right? But it's October too, and we've got some really warm temperatures here across the Southern Plains. So that heat and that moisture is going to be feeding these storms throughout the day. So when you've already seen sunshine too, that even adds a lot more energy to the atmosphere for storms to feed off of, because the sun, it heats the surface and all of that warm air rises and that causes instability in the atmosphere. So it goes ahead and feeds off of it, and that's what gives us those severe storms. So we're going to be seeing what exactly is causing this. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Alrighty. This is taking a look at the upper air levels, upper atmospheric levels of what it actually looks like. And, it looks really technical. What I'm going to show you, though, is I want you to take a look at this portion right here where you see this dip going down across about 2/3 of the U.S. here, where we're seeing winds come out of the northwest, coming down here, come out of the southwest here, and out of the southwest here. And then that's what's bringing all this warm air across the area. But what this is creating, though, is a bubble of a cool air mass that is moving down. And these areas that have been seeing the warmer air and the humid air the past few days, this is going to slam into that warmer air mass. This colder air mass slams into that warmer one, and that causes a lot of instability as well. The cooler air does have a higher density than the warmer air, so that causes it to move under the warm air, and the warm air moves up. That's your instability. That's why you see bubbling cumulus and cumulonimbus clouds when storms are starting to fire. That's that rising instability in the atmosphere. So that's what we're seeing is this cold air mass is going to be moving down in here and triggering those severe storms. And I mentioned humidity too. This is looking at a little bit lower into the atmosphere, but we see, a lot of moisture. That's what these green lines are here across the southern plains. We see a lot of moisture streaming northward from the Gulf of Mexico. So plenty of moisture to work with for this storm system. So I mentioned earlier that we have an enhanced risk that we're looking at here. And I'm going to double check for any questions before I move on any further. Awesome. Northwest Louisiana, I will get to you right after we go over what we're looking at here for at least the severe weather threat. And then I'll get to you in Northeast Louisiana. Awesome. And thank you so much for asking. I'll check back too if you have any other questions. So what I mentioned here earlier is for the severe weather threat, we have at least at most enhanced risk here. That's that orange bubble right across northern Texas and into southwestern Oklahoma. Just under Oklahoma City, but does include Norman and Moore, and then extends all the way down here into the southern panhandle of Texas. This is where you're going to see the biggest threat for the stronger severe storms. This is where we see gusty wind threat, greater than 75-mile-per-hour gusts, as well as hail larger than 2 inches. So something that could dent your car pretty easily, dent a car windshield, or even break a car windshield pretty easy is coming from these storms when hail moves in. As well as the gusts greater than 75 miles per hour. If you've got anything in the yard and in your area that can quickly be picked up by wind, you want to make sure you do secure that or bring it indoors because you don't want it to be taken away by the wind and become a dangerous flying object as well. So a lot of things to keep an eye on for these storms. So let's look at that a little bit further. When I mentioned winds, this is the area that is close to the enhanced area that we're going to see damaging winds greater than 75 miles per hour across this area here as these storms do move in. Timing for the storms is just after lunch. So after this live, you're going to want to be paying attention close to the weather radar. And I'll go over it again once we get into the later portions of this live so you can see the storms already starting to fire in the Texas Panhandle. You're going to want to watch that throughout the rest of the day. So yes, we do have the 75 mile per hour gust possibility and higher gust possibility across this area here, but also extending down into western Texas and even into the Oklahoma City area just east of it as well. When it comes to hail, about the same thing. We are seeing the same area for that hail threat greater than 2 inches or larger. So about egg-size hail or larger for these areas. So these storms do have the capability of producing that. And the reason why is because we have those cooler temperatures, especially as that cooler air mass comes down. It's going to be able to produce a bigger hailstone from those cooler temperatures that are way up higher in the atmosphere as it accumulates all the ice crystals in the high atmosphere. So we're going to be seeing that throughout the day as well after lunchtime. In addition, I did mention a tornado chance as well. We have an isolated tornado chance throughout basically the entire area, including the area that saw a marginal and slight risk. We do have an isolated tornado threat across this entire area as well. While we could see a tornado, your biggest things you want to look out for are the damaging wind gusts as well as the hail. Let me make sure we've got this here too. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about the flooding rains threat, and we'll get it to you in northwest Louisiana as well. So as far as storms, northwest Louisiana, you could see an isolated storm. We're not expecting something very severe at all. You're in the general thunderstorm risk in northwest Louisiana here. You could get a storm move through, a pretty gusty storm, but we're not expecting anything severe at this time. So good to go there. However, you do want to keep an eye out for flooding rains. So we're going to move on to that right now as well. Let me go back to what the weather radar looks like when it comes to the rainfall. It's just loading here for me. And you can find all of these tools on the Weather and Radar app completely for free. You can see it 4 days in advance. You can see all of that rainfall information when it comes to rainfall rates, lightning, anything like that, anything moving into your area. You can see it for the next 4 days. So you'll be able to create your forecast, even starting to get into the later portions of this week, into the early portions of the weekend. So you can take a look at that on your app just so you can plan ahead. So yes, let's talk about the flooding rains threat. We already see rainfall streaming out of the Gulf of Mexico and moving into the area, into eastern Texas, especially across Arkansas here and getting into the mid-Mississippi Valley areas in Missouri. Let's take a look at what that forecast looks like here. So as the day goes on, this is 2 p.m. Central Time. As the day goes on, we've got this frontal system that is moving from the northwest and moving southeast. So that's why we see this line, and this is a line moving across the area from here and here. And you're going to be seeing it move towards the southeast, but also the water streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico. This is where you're going to get this flooding rains threat and why you're going to see heavy rainfall throughout the day. So this afternoon, again, it's about 2 p.m. Central Time. You see these storms really fire up here across the area, but rain really continues here across the Ozarks and into the Texarkana area, Broken Bow, Oklahoma, as that rainfall just keeps streaming in because of the frontal system that's going on. And they've been already getting, this area's been getting heavy rainfall this morning, as well as storms and showers have been streaming northward out of the Gulf of Mexico. So it's been a wet day for this area already, and you're just going to see it throughout the overnight hours, especially. There you go, northwest Louisiana. We're still getting some heavy rainfall through this area, which is needed, right? We've got some drought going on, especially across the southern plains. But areas really have been sitting under a heat bubble most of the summer, and little to no rain has fallen, and the drought has just been increasing throughout every single week. So good for rainfall in the long term. Short term, we're expecting flooding issues. And you can see this is even through 5 a.m. tomorrow. So those starting their commute Central Time, 5 a.m., you're really going to want to pay attention to the weather radar tomorrow. This is 6 a.m. getting into 7 a.m. hour. Just south of Dallas here, we're getting into some thunderstorm activity. So everyone here along this frontal line is going to want to keep an eye on the weather radar really through the overnight hours and into tomorrow, because this rainfall is just going to continue as that air mass does keep moving south and east. So this is getting into tomorrow morning. We've got heavy rainfall still moving in. Now I mentioned that the flooding threat is there, so let's pull that up here on the Weather Prediction Center. Alrighty. So today we have as much as a moderate risk for excessive rainfall. And a moderate risk is a level 4 or a level 3 out of 4 on the intensity scale for excessive rainfall. So we're seeing some really heavy rain here move across this area. And then we pointed out too, for northwest Louisiana, we got that little bit included, but especially a slight risk for the heavy rainfall for this area. So you're going to see some flooding threats across this area if you're not already seeing that from this morning's activity. And you're going to be seeing some heavy rainfall as that frontal system does move through. Alrighty. Just double check for some questions. Perfect. Okay, cool. So yes, and we do have a flood watch out in this area because you're going to be getting a lot of rainfall very quickly in this area. So I want to pull up as well what the current drought situation looks like. I talked earlier about how we have we've had that heat bubble just sitting over the southern plains, most of the central U.S. really, for much of the summer, and little to no rainfall has happened. So I want to take a look at what that drought does look like so that you can get an idea of what we're dealing with here for this area and why the rainfall is good in the long term, but in the short term, it's going to cause some flooding issues. Okay. Transition here. Perfect. Okay. So this is what the drought looks like across the southern plains. You can see we're already into exceptional drought, which is a D4 level for eastern Texas here, southeastern Texas, and into Louisiana and lower Mississippi here as well. Got some exceptional drought going on just because of the lack of rainfall that's really happened. So this is going to be some helpful rainfall that's moving in here. We got several inches of rain expected from this system, and it's going to be kind of slowing down here too as this front does move through. So you can see some heavy downpours lasting a really long time in this area. So commutes are going to be a little bit slower. You're going to want to watch for any flooding in the roadway or any pathways that you're walking through. Make sure if you do come to a flooded roadway, it could be washed out underneath very easily. You have no idea it's there, even if you take that route all the time. Just turn around. Just turn around. I know it's going to take some extra time, but just take that opportunity to turn around because you don't want to run into possible injury or worse in that area if you do run into some flooding, especially for people around you and for yourself and your family. Turn around. Best thing to do, turn around. So for that heavy rainfall that's moving through, that's what we expect to see. And we already do see those flood watches in effect, even a flood warning across this area as well. Let's pull that up real quick on what that looks like. Alrighty, here we go. 2 to 4 inches of rainfall expected in the area that is having the flood watch, especially Texarkana is already in this flood warning. You could see local amounts up to 6 inches of rain. That's half a foot. 6 inches already can stall a car and even take it off and allow it to float away. So you don't want to be running into any of that if you're driving through. If you do, you're watching the weather radar and you're really keeping an eye on things, you want to make sure that your timing is right too for your commute. So I know it's only Wednesday, so we got a couple more days to go for the work week. Keep a close eye on it. Try to go in the lightest rain possible, or don't go around any barricades as well, because they could be blocking off a very dangerous roadway when it comes to the flooding. Alrighty. I'm going to double check for questions one more time. Thank you all so much for joining us. You're going to want to keep an eye here on the weather radar. I'll pull that up one more time this afternoon. We're going to be seeing the storms really forming here. You can already see them forming here in the Texas Panhandle. We've got the existing storms that are moving across northern Oklahoma. They're eventually just going to move off to the east. This is what we're watching here as these storms do move into this area where we're seeing the enhanced risk, which includes this area here. Now, a couple of these towns that are in the enhanced risk area, you could get a double whammy of the severe storms moving through due to regeneration of the storm system. So that you can actually find on the weather radar for today that you'll probably see a couple rounds as these storms do move throughout the day. So we're going to be seeing that as well. And you can see that here happening as the storms do move through. This is 3 p.m. Central Time, so we see the heavy rainfall and storms and really a lot of lightning activity moving through this area. And then as we go throughout the evening hours and into the commute, we get this area a little clearing out a little bit by 6 p.m. Central, but then we've got some regeneration across this area where we can get another set of storm systems by 9-10 o'clock this evening. So it's going to be a busy evening. Just keep an eye on the weather radar. You already have your alert switched on your weather radar app. If not, we have a story already on the app that you can find where how you turn on those alerts so you can get the latest information if there's a thunderstorm in your area. We have the hub up as well where you can get all the resources that you need to right on the app. So you're all set to go. You have the resources you need right there. Thank you all so much for joining me. Stay safe and keep a close eye on the weather radar. Have a good day.